What's up, guys? It's Lomax here, and welcome to my Battleborn character guide. This episode will be featuring Oscar Mike. So let's take a look at Oscar Mike's passive. Tactical Rounds allows the first 15 rounds of every magazine to deal an additional 50% damage. Now, with this skill in mind, you want to reload whenever you hit that 15 bullet mark, because that's going to be the best way to maximize your damage. It's not always going to be ideal, because if you're in a firefight, you don't want to just stop to reload. You're going to want to keep firing, but, if possible, definitely reload when you can. Now let's take a look at Oscar Mike's weapon. The UPR AR-7 assault rifle has a 30-round clip, which means half the bullets are going to get the Tactical Rounds passive added to it. It also can be upgraded a couple different times in the Helix tree. You can add some sights to it, you can add some shield penetration and some damage. As far as using it goes, standard shooter controls where you fire with your left trigger or left mouse button, you aim down sights with your right trigger or right mouse button. Now, as for Oscar Mike's talent, his combat armor can also be upgraded much like his weapon as he levels up, which we'll look at a little bit more as we move into the Helix tree. So let's take a look at Oscar Mike's skills. His first skill, Stealth Generator, allows you to go into stealth for a short period of time. Anytime you attack or use a skill while you are in stealth will cause you to become visible again. And for Oscar Mike's second skill, we have Frag Grenade, which will launch a grenade from your gun that will explode 3 seconds after you fire it, or 1 second after you impact something. This doesn't have to be an enemy, you can impact the ground, walls, anything, it will explode. And then it will deal damage to anything within its blast radius. Now for Oscar Mike's ultimate, Airstrike, you target an area of the map and missiles come down from the sky and do damage to nearby enemies. Now be sure to use this one outside, because if you're indoors it won't always work. So now that we've seen all of Oscar Mike's skills, let's take a look at his Helix tree now. At level 1, we have two options. We can either go Impact Trigger or Sneak Attack. By choosing Impact Trigger, we're going to allow our frag grenades to detonate on impact. Now, personally, I like this skill a little better than Sneak Attack because I like to spam grenades. I think it's much better if you are using a lot more grenades, because you don't have to worry about enemies leaving your blast radius. Now, Sneak Attack can also be a useful skill. Whenever you fire your weapon or you use a skill while you're in stealth, you're going to come out of it. But with Sneak Attack, you're going to get bonus damage when you do that. And I think for whichever level 1 skill you pick, it really depends on your playstyle. As I said, Impact Trigger I feel like is better if you're relying on grenades more, and Sneak Attack will be better if you're trying to run around the map covertly in stealth, trying to sneak up on your enemies. So at level 2, we're going to get two options to choose from to buff frag grenades. We can either go into Frag Incendiary Grenade, or we can go into Nades on Nades. Frag Incendiary Grenade will cover a small circular area in napalm for up to 6 seconds and will damage any enemy who enters it. Nades on Nades will cause frag grenades to spawn child grenades on impact, and each child grenade will do bonus damage. Now for which of the two skills I like better, I'm going to have to go with Frag Incendiary Grenade. You can put it exactly where you want it. With Nades on Nades, the child grenades can kind of be random sometimes, so I've found that I don't really like it that much, to be honest. I prefer Frag Incendiary Grenade all the way, but I encourage you guys to try out both of them and see what you like better. So at level 3, we get the option to put a sight on our weapon. We can either go with a red dot sight, which is better for short range, or a scope, which is a little bit better for long range. Now, obviously, which sight you choose really just depends on personal preference, so I say just try them both out and see which one you like better. At level 4, we're going to get two skills that buff Stealth Generator. We're going to get Back in a Jiff and Tactical Espionage Action. Now, Back in a Jiff can be really handy if you're in a tight spot and your shields are depleted and your health is running low. If you really just need the quick shield recharge, just pop stealth generator, and your shields will recharge in seconds. Now, tactical espionage action is pretty self-explanatory. You get an increase in your movement speed whenever you use stealth generator. It's a 30% increase, and it feels deceptively fast. It definitely feels like you're running around the map a little bit faster than that. I would definitely recommend this skill for anyone who's going for a more stealth-based build. So next, at level 5, we're going to unlock 2 skills we can choose from that'll buff our passive tactical rounds. We have Hollow Point Round and Double Tap. Now, with Hollow Point Round, I don't really see it being that useful in a PvE environment where a lot of the enemies don't have shields. I feel like you're much better off going Double Tap and adding, those other 15 bullets in your clip that don't have tactical rounds. I feel like it's better to give those tactical rounds for PvE. For PvP, though, Hollow Point Round might actually be pretty good. I haven't tested it out myself, but when you're facing a bunch of enemies with shields, human players, I think that could be a pretty decent skill. Now, at level 6, we're going to get the option to choose between Far-Flung Frags and Stealthy Shields. Now, Far-Flung Frags is going to launch our frag grenades with almost twice the velocity they already have, which is going to send it almost twice as far. I feel like it's a bit overkill, personally. I think the range that you can shoot them is satisfactory enough to where you don't really need more range, but you might disagree. I feel like this skill is going to be more of a personal preference as to whether or not you think it's useful. Now, I like Stealthy Shields. I think that the 105 shield recharge per second is great. It has amazing synergy with back in a jiff, so anytime you go into Stealth Generator, your shield's going to be back up very quickly. The only problem I have with it is that your shield capacity isn't very big to begin with. It's a little bit above 300, so you'll get your shield back really quickly, but it's not like it's much to begin with. Now that we're level 7, you might notice something a little bit different about our Helix tree. We have 3 skills that we can choose from here instead of 2. This is because we've unlocked what are known as mutation unlocks, which are tied to your character rank. If you hit a certain character rank, you unlock 1. If you hit the highest, which I think in every case is 12, you'll unlock all 5 mutation unlocks. Unfortunately, we're not at a character rank of 12 on Oscar Mike, so we don't have all of them, but we do have a couple, and we'll go over the ones that I do have. Now, agility training I can see being useful in PvP. Say, if you're trying to run down an enemy, you can catch up to them a little more easily because you have a slight bonus in movement speed, or if you're trying to run away from someone, same thing, you can run away a little more easily because of that bonus movement speed. But in PvE, I don't really see it being a huge advantage. It's an 8% movement speed increase. It's not a huge amount or anything like that, so I think you're better off going somewhere else with your point, unless you really want to move at Sanic speed. Now, for disruption rounds, I don't think it's going to be super useful in PvE like Hollow Point rounds before it. I think it'll be better in PvP. I can't say for sure because I haven't tried it out, but I think the best skill of this level is going to be High Velocity Ammo, our mutation skill. It's a flat 18% increase to damage for our assault rifle, and I think that's going to be the best bang for your buck out of these 3. At level 8, we're going to get another 3 skills. We're going to get Frag-Pocalypse, Concentrated Frags, and Embiggened Boom, all which are going to buff our frag grenade skill. I think the skill that you take here is going to really depend on what you are going for. Are you going for wave clear, or are you going for single target damage? I think that Embiggened Boom is going to be the best one if you're going for wave clear, because the area of effect is larger, so you're going to be able to hit more enemies. Frag-Pocalypse, I think, is not the best. It's going to be the second best for single target damage, because Concentrated Frags does the most damage. The only downside to it is that the area of effect radius is very small. Smaller, anyway, than Frag-Pocalypse would be. So, it's a risk-reward situation. You get more damage, but at the risk of not hitting your target. So, I think this choice is really personal preference as far as what you are looking for. At level 9, we're going to get 2 skills that buff Stealth Generator. The first one will be Stealth Savings, and the second one will be Operation Sneaky Ghost. So, Stealth Savings is actually a pretty cool skill, and it works like this. Whenever you deactivate Stealth Generator early, and it can be as soon as you enter it pretty much, you're going to get refunded a portion of your cooldown up to 40%. Negative 40%, I guess. It'll be as low as 13 seconds, I think I've seen it, which is pretty good. It allows you to go into Stealth Generator more often, which is really good with skills like Back in a Jiff or Sneak Attack. Skills that benefit from you going into Stealth Generator more. Not necessarily a longer time, but just more times in a given time frame. I see Operation Sneaky Ghost as a pretty good skill as well. Mainly in PvP. You get an extra 6 seconds of Stealth Generator time, and maybe that 6 seconds is what you need to close the gap, because you would have been seen before if you're trying to sneak up on someone. Or maybe you're trying to run away, and if it ran out, they can shoot you easily, or more easily anyways. I don't see it as being that great in PvE. I don't really think you need an extra 6 seconds of invisibility to be able to do what you want to do. I'd recommend the other skill in this case. And now we finally come to level 10, the last level that we can possibly attain. We're going to have 3 skills at level 10, all buffing Airstrike. The first one's going to be Holy Crap, Space Lasers, followed by our mutation skill, Danger Close, and then Holy Crap, Concussive Strike. Now, Holy Crap Space Lasers does, as its name implies, it replaces Airstrike's missile barrage with a laser beam instead, which focuses on a small area. Now this would be good against immobile bosses, anything that's not moving too quickly because it's pretty easy to escape it. Danger Close is pretty interesting. Oscar Mike will call the airstrike on himself rather than putting it at a certain target, so this gives you a more dynamic approach. You can actually change the location of your airstrike by moving. You can just run at enemies and have the airstrike follow you and hit things rather than placing it at a target and having the enemies just kind of walk out of it. And lastly, we have Holy Crap Concussive Strike, which makes Airstrike more of a utility-based skill. It gives Airstrike a slow, so any enemies hit by any missiles will be slowed for 3 seconds. This seems like a pretty nice skill, as 3 seconds is a decent amount of time to slow something for, and it's a pretty wide area with 13 missiles, so I can see this being a really useful skill. And that's going to do it for this video, folks. Hope you guys were able to learn a little bit about Oscar Mike during the process of this. As always, feel free to rate and or comment down below. Also, feel free to subscribe if you so choose to see future videos. And I'll catch you next time.